Hi there, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to my space. So this is day 2 of the little red Squire Strat, getting a new potentiometers, new pots. WD Music supplied Bourns mini pots. So one of the things that happened, everything was going great, day 1. We were just basically taking a wire off and putting it on our new pots so we don't get mixed up. That way you don't have to have a schematic or anything like that. You don't even have to have any experience as long as you can solder it well enough, to get the wires on. So we just go one wire at a time and just disengage the old pot, put a new pot on. Now, everything was going great, but all of a sudden I realized, let me open this up, I realized that the pot, the shaft on it, and I don't know what the numbers are on, and you could probably order Bourns pots, excuse me, you probably could order Bourns pots that had a thinner shaft, like less of a circumference or diameter. So you see how this is kind of got this shaft here. Well, the ones that were in the Squire were just, it was just smaller. So it fit in these holes. So when I got to that point and I realized, also it was kind of a pain to try to solder without being able to mount it on the pick guard. So what makes it easier, and I didn't get to do this because I was struggling with the hole, is you mount it in there, and bolt it down, and then we'd have something to hold it still while we solder. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and open up these holes. So I went home and I was trying to figure out what to do. And last night I was thinking in my head on the way home, I was like, well, maybe a file, and just kind of work my way around the hole. But that's going to be uneven. It may, look like garbage. Could be tedious, take a long time. And then I remembered I had a step drill, or I have a drill with a step down bit. Or I guess, it's a step up bit where it goes, or I don't know which step down, step up. But you have, the smallest size here, a little bigger, blah, 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 all the way down till it gets, the biggest size at the bottom. So it'll drill multiple sized holes. So what I did is on the first one, I just put it in there and just kind of opened it up, and I did it from the top. And I just kind of opened it up a little bit. Just kind of open, wait, that's loud. I just kind of opened it up a little bit, and then it just got big enough to put the pot in. So what I'll do is on the second and third hole, just to show you how I did it, I'm gonna drill, just a little, test it, drill, test till we get it exactly the right size. I don't want to make it too big because you don't want, the holes to look like crap. All right, so here we go. All right, I'm gonna bring this around very, very carefully, making sure I'm not gonna drill anything underneath there. So I went just the first notch. I kind of felt it sink into the first notch that it would allow it to go into. And let's see what happens if that's big enough. And indeed it is. All it has to do is be drilled one little notch, and you now have enough room to get that pot in there, this size pot. If your pot's a little bigger, you may have to, make a bigger hole. But I wanted to be really careful with this because I want it to look good in the end, So now that one's in place. So now that we know that, we don't have to really worry. We know we're gonna zzz, zzz, and it's gonna be one bit that it goes through, and then we're done. So let's try the next one. Carefully crank up our drill. Putting it in this first hole. This is the volume hole. And I just felt it kind of push through to the next bit size. Clean up all the plastic shards. And then open up our last pot and install. Then we can easily finish up the soldering because it'll be mounted. I think it'll be easier. I mean, might be something else that comes up, but I think we're past the toughest part of it, It's getting things to fit retroactively. That's the thing about, changing out parts and making alterations, you have to be prepared for the change. You know, you may not be able to go back to exactly what you had before. In this case, you could, because those pots would still work in this, a smaller shaft would still work, because, you know, the nut and the washer arrangement hold it in place, or the bolts or whatever. I mean, not bolts, but these small nuts. I always get my bits mixed up. Nut, bolt, what is it? Okay, so I'm gonna go up here. See, I just put it in from the bottom, and then I just take the little washer, put it over the top, and just hand tighten down. Now we're gonna have a much easier work platform. So it's be immobilized, you know, you don't have to hold the pot still while you're trying to solder with the other hand and hold the solder somehow and the thing you're trying to stick on there. Okay, so there we go. All three of them are now installed. Now, the first one, if you'll remember from yesterday, if you watched the video, this first one, I needed to do 3 more. This is the first tone knob. I needed to do, there were 4 wires that had to be grounded on top of the pot. So there was the ground from the switch, and then the grounds from the pickups are on top of this pot. The next pot, let's take a look at that carefully. Okay, so now I have these 2 pots are connected, and it looks like with a piece of shielded wire. That's a good idea. So since I'm not changing out my wiring or anything, I'll just leave that as it is and use that shielded piece. Okay, so now I'm going to remove, so now I'm going to be working on the next tone pot, and I'm going to just match up the legs. I'm going to take this shielded piece, take it off, and put it on the end of this pot. Just 1 wire at a time. That way we won't get confused. I easily get confused doing this kind of stuff. And I still haven't spent enough time with schematics and things like that. I built my amp, but I kind of did it like a color by numbers set. I really didn't know what I was doing. I wouldn't be able to build an amplifier from a schematic yet. Okay, so first we'll go about moving. Here's my soldering iron. I remove this shielded wire. That's off. And now the shielded wire goes. Oh, that's not shielded wire. It was just a piece of wire with some conduit on it. It's not shielded. It's just a connection. Okay, so that's fine. All right, and it went on leg number 1. So I'm going to put it on leg number 1 over here. Oh shoot, I didn't get my solder. Be right back. Okay, so now made a few soldering connections. I turned off the camera for a minute because I had to do a couple of things that would be boring to watch and take up camera time and sound. So I just kind of turned it off for a second. But what I've done in the meantime, let me show you, is I finished up that second pot. And that was a matter of just getting the black wires that were coming from the pickup onto that one to go from the first one to the second one. I made a few other connections, and then on this third pot is where the cap is. I've replaced it with one I ordered for my Flying V. I don't even remember the value. I think it's 0.022, and I believe that Fenders usually have 0.047, so I don't know how it'll sound. I think it'll be fine. I don't even use the caps. I don't use the tone knobs that much, but what this will do is on volume turning down, in theory, you don't lose any treble. So like, let's say you want to roll back a little bit on the volume. Sometimes it gets kind of dull and flat when you do that. This will prohibit that. And as you can see, I've got it on this leg of the third cap, the volume cap. Oh wait, let me see. Yeah, that would be the volume cap. And then the other leg is grounded. And then I took the little bit of conduit that was off the old they had a connection from this one to this one. I just used my own white wire. And in here, I took the conduit off of that and used it to cover up the other leg of this cap, because this leg has got to go longer to the actual top of the case to ground, and this side is on the hot leg. Okay, so all that's left is I've got to take this green wire, which is in the middle, that would be the number 2 spot on that pot, and move it to the number 2 spot on our new trusty Bourns pots. Man, these Bourns pots look so much nicer in here. They're new and shiny, and they look great. What is all this? Okay, that's just, all right, that's just the leg of the cap. Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna just desolder, or just heat this up, release that wire. Good. And now I'm going to release, wait, I'll just wait. We'll release that black wire next. Let me just solder this really quickly. Okay. I got a little solder string that broke off. This solder is very, very thin, which makes it nice, you know, for doing delicate stuff. Smaller things like these mini pots. It's perfect for that. Okay, I'm going to tin the wire on this string. I'm going to tin the wire on this green wire. Who knows what I've got going? Oh, wait, you know what? Let me move these lights a little bit. There, that'll look better. Yeah. Let me move this one. It might be too bright. Make it where you can't see as well. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, I'm going to tin this a little bit. Wait, let me put my one-arm glasses on again. It's hard to see these little wires. And then I can't see anything once I put them on. Oof. Okay, so I'm going to tin this wire a little bit. And the other thing, you have to, every once in a while, wipe off your iron, because it gets particles from, like if you touch a wire, or if you're desoldering and you get some of the conduit melts on the string. Okay, so I'm going to just go right in here. I can see better now. And we're going to put this in the number 2 position, just following what we have on our old pots. That way we don't make a mistake. If we're less experienced with fender wiring like myself, never done any fender wiring. I'm probably about to. I'm going to build one soon. And this is kind of giving me some insight. But what I like to do is study the wiring, you know, download something, study the different ways to wire things, and really get familiar with it before I dive in. This I figured would be easy because I was just going to follow, you know, what's already been done. And it's still more challenging than I think. This has been harder than I thought it would be. I usually dive into things and then realize they are going to be a little bit more difficult than I imagined. Look before you leap type thing, you know. Okay, all that's left is this one wire on the back of this pot. It's coming off of the second one and the first one, so it's just one of the pickups. So now I'm going to move. Those sometimes take a little bit more to get them off, but here's the old pot with the little cap on it. I'm going to move that over here. Okay, and in this, we'll just join the rest of these wires in this solder soup over here on the top. And I have never soldered the back of caps as effectively as I have these Bourns. And I'm not particularly like a solder champion or anything like that for any measure. But these Bourns, I'm really into them. They do everything right. All right, so I'm going to just add a little to this solder soup. Trying to heat up the metal, like you're trying to make a connection with the metal and the wire. And then the solder comes in, heats up from the heat that you've created on the metal. as opposed to heating up the solder and just letting it pour over everything. For starters, on some of these caps, the surfaces are not great for soldering, so it just kind of won't stick to anything. It won't adhere. Really annoying. Okay, so now it's done. I'm looking around to see if there's a wire that I forgot about. And it's always nice while you're in here, just double check all your solder work. Might heat up a couple of these. Just to make sure, you know, because you could have done everything right, made one little glitch, one little error, and then nothing works, and you're confused and you can't figure out where it went wrong. So I just would like to go through real quick and just double check, you know, just make sure that this looks a little light here. This connection, this last connection I made for the number 2 pin. Trying to blow those evil solder fumes away. I should probably be wearing a mask, just like I've been wearing a mask when I go out in public. Okay, just hitting these again, make sure. Get some good solder flow going, make sure that not gonna have any dead connections. Beautiful. That's all good. Everything's groovy. Okay, I think the best thing to do is put it all back together again and see if it works. So, here we go. So now here we are. Now the thing that I have to make sure of now is that I make sure I get these fastened down correctly. Now, they all have washers, so I'm going to go back, unscrew the bolt on this one. Okay, just like that. So you get a nut, you get a washer on the bottom of the pot. So you have to kind of release these. So you get these 2 washers. I'm going to put one. So the first nut goes down, this thicker washer, or I guess it's a nut or a mini bolt, little bolt. Okay, so that goes down. Then I'm going to put the washer in. Then into the hole. Kind of push it through. Make sure you don't mess up any of your wiring. Turn it around. Washer, another washer. Goes on. Bolt. This in. Well, it looks like what you attach on the side of pedals. Okay. Now that's going to tighten up nicely. And the bolt on the bottom you can use to set your height. So if it's too tall, you just bring it up and it'll bring it down. Or if it's not high enough, you take it off or push it up some more. Go all the way to the base, with the washer. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I would hate to do all this solder work and then pull it off the... Uh-oh, did we lose our solder here? Yeah. So I'll just solder that to the top of the pot. Okay. Now we're going to make sure this one has its washers in place. Unscrew the bolt. Take it off. Take this bolt off to reveal the 2 washers. They're on the post. Take the washers off. Put the bolt back on, or one of them. This is the one that adjusts the height from the inside or from the underneath point. and it can adjust the height for you. I'm screwing mine all the way down because I think I know what height I need. Okay. Washer, thin metal washer, goes back in the hole. Now we're going to flip it over. Okay, now I'm going to do a little tightening job, and this can always be perfected later, but I'm just going to tighten these down a bit. And you kind of have to hold them still so you don't twist the wires when you're doing this, so just kind of make sure that nothing's getting twisted around in there. That looks good. Move this one that way a little bit. You don't want any of the wires touching one another. Yeah, that'll be good right there. So once you find a good spot to keep them in, you hold it still from the bottom carefully, and then you just kind of clamp down on it. And it doesn't have to be super duper tight. This stuff doesn't come under a lot of stress and strain unless you're just like whacking on your volume knob, tone knobs all night long. Okay, I think those are reasonably tight and they can be rechecked later. My ground wire popped off, so I need to get that back on. Okay, I believe that just gets soldered right to the case on any of the pots. This is just a communal wire. Whoa, there goes my one-arm glasses. That's just a communal ground, a star ground, where everything's kind of ground to one point. I guess it's not a true star ground, but anyway, everything's grounded at the same spot because that's the best space for this wire. It's only so long. Okay, so I'm going to put a little solder on it. I'm going to tin the wire because I just exposed some of the copper. Looks new again. So I'm just going to tin the wire a little. And then put it on top of the pot. Let me move these out of the way. Oh, I can see where it kind of jumped off. Okay, I kind of got it stuck. It's like sitting there, and it's going to need more solder to stay in place. So I'm going to just kind of dunk it. Once I get it, there it is. Ooh, that's nice. Trapped all of them. This one popped up though. So it's important to check your pot soldering because pots don't like to have they're not a great surface for soldering. It's like a smooth, flat surface as opposed to a pin, that you're going into, or a leg. So it doesn't have like the hole that the leg has. It's just a flat surface. So you've got, to deal with keeping the wire down. So the solder has to kind of hold it down before it dries. So you can get some bad solder connections. I'm just going to make sure that this is hanging tough. Yeah, that's good. Now it's flowing. Looks like Terminator 2 when it flows correctly. This silver solder does. Silver Surfer. It's going back before T2. Looks like Silver Surfer when you get it flowing beautifully. Okay. Ooh, that's nice. That's looking good. That is looking good. Okay, I'm going to put the pick guard back in place, hopefully. Let me just check one more time. Always kind of weirds me out when I'm done. Like, did I really get done? Yeah, it's pretty done. Okay, so now flip it over. What I'm doing is I'm trying to blow out any of the plastic shards and any soldered bits, because those would, cause conductivity to occur. So you don't want that happening. It'll be a miracle if I don't kill these strings trying to get all this back together. Caught on something here. I need to look at it from this perspective. It must be the switch. What am I doing wrong? It's just the strings making it complicated. Yeah, once you get the strings to settle down. So if you can tell, what I had to do, kind of move some things around a little bit. Okay, popped it back into place. Okay, now, before we screw it back on, let's just see if it works. Because that way, if it doesn't, we can go from there. So I'm going to tighten my strings back up. I'm going to start with the low E, so that I don't put pressure on my high strings. Less chance of them breaking under pressure. Now make sure, don't forget about your string tree up here on the D string. That's got to go into there on a Strat. Ooh, I heard it kind of settle. Don't break strings. Okay, now I'm going to bring this under, and this under. So now we got all string treed up. What the hell's going on there? Okay, so the idea is just to get enough signal so that I know that I didn't mess it up, too much. Okay, so let me go get a tuner so we can make sure that we are in tune. Oh, I hear it making noise. That's good. Let me just tune it really quickly. The fear is that after all this work, it's not going to work. But I'm learning more and more that if you want to learn how to do this, like work on guitars or whatever it is in life, don't quit. Don't give up. Once you give up, you're not going to be able to do it at that point. Now, it doesn't mean you might have to take it to somebody, but you'll try again, and you're going to listen to what he tells you did wrong and try to do better. So don't worry about it. There's no such thing as failure with this kind of stuff. Just quitting, you know. And if you decide that you're sick of messing around with the guitars and you want to quit, that's okay too. I'm going to release you from all responsibility. At least from like beating yourself up about stuff, because I do that. Always tuning up. This will take a minute too, because with a floating trim, it takes a minute. It'll keep kind of like lifting and lifting, and then you tune and then it lifts and then it loosens the strings. So it takes a minute for a floating trim after you've done something like either change the strings or had the strings off in order to get it to behave normally. Okay, so sorry. Okay, the moment of truth is coming. We're going to see if this thing, it should just sound like it used, it should play just like it used to. I'm hoping it sounds a little better. I'm not thinking there'll be a massive sonic upgrade. It's kind of like getting a new pair of shoes, you know? Oil change on the car, like a tune-up, you know? But I'm thinking it's going to open it up. And I recommend that people, before you start switching out pickups, if you're going to go to the trouble of desoldering your pickups, you might want to consider changing out the pots first. It may not be the pickups that are not delivering. It could be the pots are old, their tolerances aren't quite right anymore, and they're not delivering the amount of resistance that you need or gain. Because I had some pots that had drifted, and they were like 300K instead of 500K. So those kind of things will make the pickup sound anemic, you know, like it's not putting out as much as it's supposed to. Okay, somehow we preserved these strings too. That's kind of cool. I didn't want to have to go buy new strings after I've hardly used these, but I got the itch to replace these pots, so the strings had to be loosened. Okay, so reasonably in tune for a minute. Wow. Okay, hold on a second. Let me try to get in control of the situation here. I'm going to turn this mic down. It has a cut at 20. Tune. Okay, so we're still a little out of tune, so we're not getting full satisfaction. But man, this is a big upgrade. Big. I don't know if you could tell, but this thing is like a monster now. Those pots were holding it back. I knew it. I knew it. These pots are way better. Go get them now, quick. Do it while there's still time. Because man, I'm telling you, these things, this guitar is just like, it's always been awesome. This is an awesome guitar. I bought 3 of these, and this is by far the best one. This is the best Strat I've ever played. Well, I played one other Strat back in the 90s. Mark Skinner had a blue Strat. I think he sold it to his friend. And it had, what do you call those pickups? The noise-free ones. I forgot what they were called, but they were smooth on the top. And man, that guitar played like a dream. Boy, that guitar was nice. That's the first Strat I'd ever liked as, you know, just sitting around the house. But this one, for me, I can't remember what that one was really like because it's been a long time, but I remember it being good. But this is the next best one, and it's the best one I've ever owned. And I want to build one now because, God. So anyway, These Bourns pots, nothing else was changed. The same pickups. I didn't do any kind of upgrades. Didn't even change out the wire, just a few wire switches. But basically, I just took each pot. You saw how I did it, and just, you know, replace the ones that are there. It's very simple. And now I'm starting to see the pattern of fender wiring. I'm used to Gibson wiring. But man, this thing just, it comes alive. So I'm going to put the screws back on real quick. So we'll go back here. I guess before that, we'll put our knobs on. So hopefully those will just fit right back on again. We've got our volume first. So what you do is you turn it all the way up, and then I'm going to find my 10, you know, and have that 10 facing me, because now I know my pot's all the way turned up. Uh-oh. You know what's going to happen? Oh, no, it's fine. I thought maybe these pots aren't going to fit on here, but they do. They fit perfectly. Everything's going to go well now from here on. I'll never have another problem again. Okay, so like in any aspect of my life too, these pots just fixed everything. Okay, so now put this tone knob on. Yeah, I think if you get a few of these pots, you won't have any more problems. Okay, now all turned up, all turned up. I like to turn it all the way up to 10. Just kidding. I mean, not really. Okay, so now I'm going to screw the screws back in. And look at this. We didn't even have to do anything. I didn't even have to change the strings. Just loosen them up, moved them up enough, you know, got it loose enough so you could kind of slip the pick guard out, flip it over, match up our wiring, resolder, put everything back. I did do that cap upgrade, but that's just the same thing. Maybe I think it's the same value. I'm going to go home and check, but I think it's around the same value, and it has the treble bleed on it. I don't know if that'll make any difference in the Strat or not. This is already very bright guitar, so it doesn't. I don't really need a roll off, but I had it laying around. Okay, so whoops. So now I'm going to get all my screws here, my rusty screws. Let me go get my. Ooh, what did I drop there? Let me go get my screw gun. Okay, so now I'm going to put screws back on. And a lot of these are, if you watch the video where I took them off, a lot of them are kind of stripped out. So what I need to do when I get the energy up, and I'm missing one, is get some new screws or just soak these in like some navel jelly or whatever like you can use nowadays to remove rust, like some kind of rust remover, and let them sit in that for overnight or something, you know. And then spray those off so they're good and clean. Then get some toothpicks and glue and just drop it in the holes that are, you know, like a break off a toothpick in there, or a couple pieces of a toothpick. You just drop a little super glue down in there, or Elmer's wood glue. Actually, don't mess with super glue unless you have to. If you want to glue your fingers together and spend the rest of your day feeling super glue all over you, use super glue. If you want a nice experience, just use wood glue. It's good enough. So once the wood glue drops in, I think even Elmer's works. Anything that just kind of fills up the hole and gives the screw something to screw into. So once you fill it up with that, then you let it dry for a minute and then go back in. The only problem is you have to redo it the next time you take your pick guard off. I don't think I'll be taking this off anytime soon because I'm not going to upgrade those pickups. Those are awesome. And now that I've upgraded the cap, and the only thing left to do would be upgrade the switch, which I'm not going to do because it works fine. And yeah, all good. No more upgrades. So yeah, you could go ahead at that point, when you know that you're done modding the guitar for a minute, you're not going to go back in, then you could do the little wood fix so that the screws stay in better and the pick guard stays flush. Mine kind of pops up in little spots because, like I said, I'm missing a screw, and other ones are so stripped that they're just kind of in the wood. They're not holding anything down. Don't forget, and start messing around with your pickup height screws. Those don't go anywhere. And if you've got a brand new guitar, or like a super nice guitar, like a Strat that's got some kind of awesome finish, or just want to keep your guitar really nice, you know, don't make sure you put like a towel down. Maybe don't use these. And if you do, you know, protect the surface. This guitar has already been, you know, out in the world, so I'm not worried about it. In fact, I like it just aging naturally. And it's these Fender finishes are so freaking durable that there's not much you can do to it, you know, unless you want to go into the relicking thing. So yeah, I'm going to call this a success. I've upgraded Red. Red's better than ever. Red was already great. I don't want to make you feel bad, Red, because you were fantastic, you know, from birth. But it's a 20-year-old guitar, old ass pots, probably the cheapest ones possible. You know what I'm going to say though? Squire, the tuners work. The pickups aren't bad, especially these. I can't say all their pickups aren't bad, but these pickups are good. I mean, this is really something. You get this much guitar for $65. I mean, this is incredible. And to have it feel like this, you know, if it has like that vintage neck profile, I really like it. If you have like long fingers or like a big thumb like Jimmy, I think this is a 9.5, but if you have a 7.25, some interesting things you can do, like wrapping the thumb around and stuff. Been reading about that. So anyway, this is a fun project, easy to do, as you can see, pretty pain-free. Thanks. See you next time.